My town sat on top of a small hill by the side of a river whose banks held only sand. At noon, you had to walk quickly so as not to burn your feet. But when it rained, the river would overflow and turn our central street to mud. All us children would go out, slipping and pushing each other, playing in the mud before the sun baked it hard and the wind carried it away as dust. To talk about this part of my life is to talk about another person, like a person in a story. A boy with a father and mother and 3 sisters, one pretty, one smart, and one mean. A grandfather who drank too much and beat everyone at dominoes. A teacher who thought that boy had talent. A priest who thought he was wicked. Friends and classmates and enemies and girls he watched with increasing wonder, like Jimena, who had thick curly hair and fair skin, and who got pregnant with a baby of one of the local guerrilleros. Most people think that a person is whatever you see before you, walking around in bone and meat and blood. But that is an idiocy. Bone and meat and blood just exists. But to exist is not to live, and bone and meat and blood alone is not a person. A person is what happens when there is a family, and a town, a place where you are known, where every person who knows you holds a small invisible mirror, and in each mirror, held by family and friends and enemies, is a different reflection. In one mirror, the sweet fat boy I was to my mother. In another, the little imp I was to my father. In another, the irritating brat I was to Gustavo. A person is what happens when you gather all these reflections around a body. So what happens when one by one, the people holding those mirrors are taken from you? It's simple. The person dies. And the bone and meat and blood goes on, walking the earth as if the person still existed, when God and the angels know he doesn't. So let's not talk about this boy as if he and I are the same person and not 2 strangers, one who walked in this body before the burning and one who did after. Let's talk about this boy whose memories and face I share, as the dead child he is. We can call him Abelito. Abelito was a fat, well-loved child. Every day he would walk to school in another town, a school run by men from America, who taught math and reading, but also about the personal Jesus, and how a group of priests called Jesuits had stolen the Bible and changed the words to make men follow the devil. The Lord would overcome and save us if we had faith, they said. And faith was a moment when the heavens shined down and we knew we were saved. The mean sister, Mona, said that she had been saved and that it felt very, very good, but that Abelito hadn't had the feeling because he was going to hell. 2 weeks later, Mother took him 2 towns down to the church in Cunaviche to get confessed. And when Abelito told Father Eustacio about Mona's salvation, the old priest had scowled and said it was stupidity, that only a cruel God would condemn and save in such a foolish way, and that God was not cruel, but was, in fact, a terrible and frightening love. And he took that little boy out of the confessional to see the skin and bones Holy Christ above the altar, a wooden Holy Christ in agony, with muscles straining and a bloody wound in the side like a mouth come to devour. The statue gave Abelito nightmares, but Father Eustacio said to look on the suffering and know the love of God, to do such a thing to his child. God is love, Father Eustacio said, and he does not hand out salvation to be worn like a crown. And Abelito said, my sister then, she is not saved? And Father Eustacio said, no, which pleased Abelito very much. And after that day, Abelito nodded his head when the missionaries talked about the personal Jesus who would come to them and make them born again. But in his secret heart, he remained faithful to the terrifying Holy Christ of Cunaviche. Some days, Abelito's grandfather would take him and his smart sister, Maria, and teach them how to carve boats from chachajo, a good hard wood that also makes the best spinning tops, and they would put them in the river and watch them float downstream. Abuelito's grandfather said all water flows to the ocean, and that one day he would go there to die, the place where everything goes in the end.